Number 37. Before we start, I just want to point out that these two words here after the name of our Texas blind salamander are the scientific name of the Texas blind salamander. Because I don't see scientific names anywhere else in my question or in my answer choices, I'm going to assume that I don't need that information. And that's typically the case with a question like this. They just give you that scientific name as extra information on the organism. If you saw the scientific name later in the question or in an answer choice, then it would probably be relevant to the question. But we don't, so we're going to ignore it for now. So, number 37 states, the Texas blind salamander lives in the Edwards Aquifer region around San Marcos. Along with other species, the salamander lives in total darkness in the underground crevices and caves of the aquifer region. The table lists some of the organisms that live in this environment and their food sources. And then there's a table that gives us that information. The question asks, in an energy pyramid for these aquifer cave dwellers, which of the following would be placed at the bottom? Now, an energy pyramid will follow the same format as a food web as far as the different levels in which the organisms go. So what we should do is create a food web for these different food sources and determine what's at the bottom and what's at the top. Now, in an energy pyramid, any sort of energy pyramid, you are going to have your food sources at the bottom, so your producers, the organisms that make the food, all the way up to your top level consumers up at the top. All right, and so your energy pyramid goes from most energy, which will be in your producers, up to our first level consumers, second level consumers, third level consumers, and so on. So let's look at a food web that we can create from this data table. So the first thing that you'll notice here is I've circled detritus in our data table. Detritus is dead, decaying matter, okay? And you can see that our snails and our amphipods eat detritus. Now, because detritus is not an organism, it is dead, decaying matter, I've gone ahead and put it down at the bottom of our food web because it cannot eat anything else. Therefore, I know it goes at the bottom. It is a food source for other things, but it is not an organism, and so it is not going to be higher on the food chain where it would be a consumer. So from there, I know that there are certain organisms that eat the detritus. I have the snails, the amphipods, and the blind shrimp that all eat the detritus. So I'm going to go ahead and put those into my food web. And notice I'm going up from detritus because I'm going up in my energy pyramid, right? I'm going up to the first level of consumers. So the snails, blind shrimp, and amphipods will eat the detritus. Now, the snails and amphipods only eat detritus, but my blind shrimp also eat protozoa and fungi, so I'm going to add that in as well. Now I put them down below because they are food for the blind shrimp, so they go on a lower level because they are food for the level above it. Then I need to figure out what eats the snails, the blind shrimp, or the amphipods. And when I look at my data table, I find that the Texas blind salamander is going to eat the blind shrimp and the amphipods. So I'll draw arrows pointing to the blind salamander. That means that they are food that go into the blind salamander, and draw my arrows that way. And notice I put blind salamander above the others because now I'm on to a second level consumer that ate the first level consumer that ate the producer at the bottom. Then I'm going to figure out what eats the Texas blind salamander, and that is going to be our intestinal roundworm. So I go on to add my intestinal roundworm above the blind salamander because it is now the top level consumer. Now I've added all of the organisms into my food web that are in the data table, and now I can determine which of these is going to be my lowest level on the energy pyramid. So remember, my energy pyramid has my low level, these guys, down at the bottom, and it's going to have my high level consumers up here at the top. The most energy, though, is down at the bottom. So my detritus isn't a living organism, so it doesn't actually really belong in there, but my protozoa and my fungi belong at the bottom. So I'm going to look back at my question now, and it asks me, in an energy pyramid for these aquifer cave dwellers, which of the following would be placed at the bottom? So remember, according to the information that we had there, the bottom was going to be our protozoa and our fungi, and our answer choices only have protozoa, not fungi, so I know that C is my correct answer. Now, if it had had detritus as one of the answer choices, we would not pick that because typically for an energy pyramid, that is for organisms only, and detritus is not a living organism, so we would cross that answer out as well. So hopefully now if you see a question like this, you'll know, build a food web out of it, put your lowest things that are being eaten first at the bottom, and then what eats those things go above it until you get to the top, and you can figure out what's at the bottom of your energy pyramid all the way up to the top of your energy pyramid.